Hello again, YouTube land. Mark Allen Gunnels. I'm going to do another brief reading from Halloween House of Horrors. This time, a story called Massacre House. This was a short piece, was actually inspired by a photograph that my friend Shane Nelson sent me one year of his Halloween costume. So just sit back and enjoy this brief little story. What'd you say? How come nobody on Myers Lane decorates for Halloween? Well, let me tell you. See that house down at the end of the street? The one with the overgrown lawn and the for sale sign out front? Up until last year, the Ryerson family used to live there. Steve and Lindsay with their 3 children, 10-year-old Evan, and 2 twin girls of 7, Beth and Paula. Halloween used to be a big deal on Myers Lane. Houses were decked out almost as much as for the Christmas holiday. Orange lights strung across windows and porches, jack-o'-lanterns glowing from front steps, cardboard tombstones decorating lawns, little white ghosts and green-faced witches on broomsticks hanging from the tree branches. The kids loved it, and if truth be told, we adults secretly loved it just as much. At least until last year. Last Halloween, there was no house on the street more extravagantly decorated than the Ryersons. They went all out, had no less than 6 jack-o'-lanterns on display, 2 at either end of the porch, 2 at the top of the front steps, and 2 at the bottom. And these gourds were not sporting the usual triangle eyes and lightning-slash mouths, heavens no. They were carved with intricate designs of ghoulish, demonic faces. A grinning skull that glowed in the dark looked down on the street from an attic window, and a life-size coffin set on the front lawn open to reveal a moldering plastic skeleton dressed in the tattered remains of a tuxedo. The paved walk was lined on either side with small 2-foot-high trolls with deformed faces and sharp teeth. Their eyes glowed, lighting the path to the front door. A sign was posted at the edge of the Ryerson property a week before Halloween, announcing that on the night of October 31st, not only would there be candy for trick-or-treaters, but there would also be a spook house for the kids and their families to go through. Massacre House, the sign read in dripping red letters. It was the talk of the street, and we were all looking forward to seeing what they had in store for us. Lindsay told the other wives in the neighborhood that Massacre House had been all Steve's idea. He wanted to do something extra special for Halloween, and he had taken charge of all the decorations and preparations. On Halloween night, he was going to stay home to run the spook house and give out candy while Lindsay took the kids out trick-or-treating. When October 31st rolled around, the Ryerson house was the first stop I made with my kids. Little Mike and Aaron could barely contain their excitement, full of high-pitched giggles and chatter. Mike was dressed up as a cowboy, Aaron as an angel, and even I'd gotten into the game, done up like a 30s mobster. Steve answered the door only seconds after I rang the bell, his appearance causing the kids to gasp and squeal delightedly, and I must admit even I was a bit startled. His face was dusted with white powder, giving him a deathly pallor, and his black hair slicked back from the temples. He wore a white dress shirt untucked, and both the shirt and his face were splattered with fake blood, a deep shade of red that stood out starkly against all the white. He held an axe, the blade of which was also coated with the red substance. Without a word, his face remaining totally expressionless, he stepped back, silently inviting us over the threshold. The entryway was dark, only the flickering candlelight from 2 jack-o'-lanterns on wooden shelves providing any illumination. Black and orange streamers hung from the ceiling, as well as a stringy white substance that mimicked spiderwebs a bit too authentically. Still remaining mute, Steve turned and led us through the house. It wasn't a spook house in the traditional sense. No one jumped out from darkened corners, no dummies suspended from nooses dropped from above. But what Massacre House did have was gore, and plenty of it. Rubber body parts that were shockingly realistic, buckets of that fake blood spilt everywhere. The walls were painted in garish mosaics with the stuff. Limbs littered the floor like discarded chew toys. Aaron pointed at what seemed to be a human ear nailed to the dining room wall and started to cry, clinging to my leg. In the kitchen, a set of mismatched eyeballs, one blue, the other brown, set on top of the microwave, staring at us as we passed. I hurried my children through, a bit sickened by the display. It seemed not in the spirit with the wholesome scares I prefer to treat the kids to on Halloween, but more ghastly and disturbing than I was expecting from the Ryersons. I actually warned a few other families away, especially the ones with very young children, and I think some of the other parents did the same, and Massacre House proved to be less popular than anticipated. The lights were out in the Ryerson home at 9 p.m., and soon after Myers Lane quieted as we parents shepherded our little children indoors to inspect their candy and send them to bed with tummy aches from excessive sugar. The thrills of Halloween were over for another year, or so we thought. The next day, however, the real horror began. Police discovered the bodies of Lindsay, Evan, Beth, and Paula, or at least parts of them, torn to shreds and scattered throughout the house. The ear nailed to the dining room wall belonged to Evan. The eyes on the microwave belonged to Lindsay, blue, and Paula, brown. Police found the axe lying on the sofa in the living room, the blood of all four victims drying on its rusty blade. But Steve Ryerson was nowhere to be found, and still hasn't been found to this day. And that's why we don't celebrate Halloween on Myers Lane anymore. There you go. Brief reading from Halloween House of Horrors, my collection of 19 Halloween-themed stories, available on Amazon, paperback and digitally. So I hope you enjoyed it, and have a happy Halloween, folks.